keep on digging, baby.
Keep on digging.
Yeah. Speaking of the Raiders, let's get into it.
Yes,
MG, I would like to announce I got a fucking quarterback. Okay? Last week, I didn't know what was happening. My mock drafts were panicking. I was panicking. I was thinking Aaron Rodgers. I wanted Matt Stafford. I was thinking Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll going to reunite. But there was a reunited, and it feels so good because it's not Russell Wilson. Geno Smith for a third-round pick. As I alluded to before, it's like the 93rd pick. It is the pick that the Raiders received in return for Devontae Adams from the Jets. So Devontae got his toxic ass out of there, and the Raiders used that pick to turn around and get a quarterback who will be a bridge quarterback. I still think the Raiders draft a quarterback, but I will get to that in the mock draft.
I think we talked about that last week, right? We kind of
but we'll talk about that in the mock draft.
Idea.
But I am very excited about this, MG. MG, what do you feel, or how are you feeling for my Las Vegas Raiders with our new addition, West Virginia's own Geno Smith?
Geno Smith. Playing in the division you play in, and knowing that, because you're going to have there's going to be some tough defenses he's going up against. Having that mobile quarterback, he torched us. Geno Smith had his way a couple years ago with the Lions. So he can extend plays for you. He can get outside out the edge and give you some extra yardage. So yeah, I think experienced quarterback. He's going to probably have a few moments which is going to pull your hair out, or is going to throw a bad pick or get sacked for whatever reason. But for the most part, I think you got a veteran quarterback that you need. Like I said, draft another QB and then and just have him start or have him be behind him. So
yeah. As addition, we signed a couple free agents, and we'll get to those here in a second. But the Raiders did lose a lot of starters on defense, and we spoke about this last week. I had a few priority people that I felt like the Raiders needed to re-sign. I actually had 3 of them. And surprise, surprise, none of them re-signed with the Raiders. So I actually put out this tweet that got a lot of traction, and I said, I think not re-signing Big Bobby Spillane automatically makes the Raiders one of the biggest losers in free agency. Now, Bobby Spillane, along with Nate Hobbs, were 2 of the automatics that I felt like the Raiders needed to re-sign going and not let them walk away in free agency. And they didn't. A lot of people reacted to that tweet that I tweeted and kind of disagreed with me. There was a lot of reasoning. And one of those reasonings were, and I would like to bring this one tweet up if I could find it, is, and here it is, MG, so you can see it, from Tristan Kuhn on Twitter. Both Robert Spillane and Trayvon Merrick, who ended up going to the Carolina Panthers safety, have been paid above their projected comp pick values. The Raiders currently stand to receive a 3rd round for Merrick and a 4th round for Spillane. That will obviously change the Raiders signings, but showcases the overspending in free agency. And I wanted to point this out, MG, for the simple point that this is a very shit draft class, along with being a very shit free agency class. And there's a lot of overspending. And this also gets reflected in my mock draft, where I think there will be a lot of surprise picks and reaches, because a lot of teams will be drafting for need and not best player available, much like overpaying right now, because both classes, I believe, are pretty shit. So, MG, any reaction on the Raiders losing those, key pillars?
Well, and to add to what you just said, I think the big thing this year is, if there's one strength in the draft, it's defensive line, edge or interior. That's one of the strengths. So you're going to see a lot of these teams try to double down on getting it, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders are in on that, because it's cheap. You're not paying you're not putting out the bag to get it. You get a couple of starters, And they're starting by like week 8. Win. It's a win. So
yeah. Yeah. And so the first signing the Raiders made out of free agency, which came very late in the day, around 4:05 p.m. And a lot of people were
you were upset. You were going, they haven't done anything yet.
I was upset until I started realizing that it might have been because of the Geno Smith trade, that there was some money that might be owed, might not be owed, and they weren't going to have that number set in stone until after 4:00 on Monday. So that's why the Raiders didn't start making moves until then. And their first move came with safety Jeremy Chin, who was on the Commanders, played in Dan Quinn's defense last year. If you know anything, Dan Quinn was the defense coordinator for the Legion of Boom in Seattle. So there's the connection there. Overall, from Pro Football Focus grade, better grade than Trayvon Merrick, who he lost to Carolina, and Jeremy Chin came in at a hell of a lot cheaper. So was upset to lose Trayvon Merrick. Never really had any thought that we would keep Trayvon Merrick, but I am happy with the replacement of Trayvon Merrick. Along with Jeremy Chin, the Raiders re-signed Malcolm Kuntz, who is a defensive end, had a really good breakout end of the year of 2023, 2024, while the Raiders were at training camp in Costa Mesa, tore his ACL, ended his season, didn't get on the field last year, so we signed him to a one-year prove-it deal, see how that ACL is doing. But, man, I thought he was going to be the MVP on the defense this year if he didn't get injured, MG. He had an incredible end to 2023, like I said, and I thought him being the bookend with Max was going to make the 1-2 punch that was going to dominate the league. Unfortunately, he didn't get to see it, so hopefully the return of the Malk, and he comes back nice and healthy and ready to move on. But another addition, the Raiders made a move for Bobby Spillane. They signed Steelers free agent Alandin Roberts, who, this is funny. So, MG, and I'll tell you why this is funny. Robert Spillane came to the Raiders from Pittsburgh. He was relatively unknown coming out of Pittsburgh and was only known as a run stopper. Well, Roberts is relatively unknown out of Pittsburgh and is mostly known for being a run stopper. So I'm hoping that history repeats itself and we have the dumb luck that we got with Robert Spillane, where Robert Spillane turned in from a prove-it deal to being one of the highest paid middle linebackers in this free agency cycle going to New England, that we do the same thing. And if there's anything, MG, that makes me happy and excited about it, it's this video that's shows number 50 right here, jumping over a pile to make a stop and a fumble on the goal line. So I am very excited about this. And I wanted to point out another tweet that from Mo Moten from Bleacher Report. He said the Raiders and Steeler fans are upset about losing their linebackers today. And the Raiders signed the Steelers lost for a fraction of the price that the Patriots signed the Raiders linebacker. Did you follow that? So as upset as I was with Robert Spillane going to New England, joining Mike Vrabel, not re-signing with the Las Vegas Raiders, that tweet just puts it in perspective. We got the guy that Pittsburgh is most upset about losing for half the price. So, MG.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel as bad for me as you probably shouldn't?
I don't feel bad for you.
Okay. Because, we got a quarterback.
Yeah, you and like I told you yesterday, we were texting, and I said, this is just the beginning. There are so many little other dominoes that are going to fall. Free agency is just starting. We got a good, and I know probably we'll hear by this time next week, we'll have a better understanding of what our teams are going to look like before the draft. So I wouldn't get too ahead of yourself if they don't do anything. But yeah, other than that, hey.
Yeah. And the Raiders made one more signing in the middle of the night. Lonnie Johnson, safety coming over from Carolina. So we basically just swapped safeties with Carolina as well. Another half the price. He'll be more of a special teams guy. I only bring this one up because I thought this was a fun little story from his original draft report. But Kentucky cornerback Lonnie Johnson Jr. was originally supposed to play at Ohio State, but an ACT score he needed to count to be academically eligible had his name spelled JONNSON, which negated the score. He ended up in a junior college for 3 years before ultimately playing for the Wildcats. Lonnie said it was a computer mishap. So a computer mishap could have really ruined this man's career. He was supposed to play at Ohio State, ended up playing at Kentucky. So right there, if you're supposed to play at Ohio State, I have faith that you're going to end up being a good player for my Raiders.
There you
and,
go.
you know, I'm not, you know, it's special teams depth at the end of the day, in my opinion. As far as the Raiders in whole go, I'm happy we got Geno Smith. We'll talk about it in the mock drafts. I still think there's a quarterback in the Raiders' future. Right now, they're sitting at plus 1,800 to win the division, the AFC West, with Geno Smith and Pete Carroll reunited. I think that number goes up. I think Denver had a fluke year. I think they fall back a little bit. I think the Chargers could relatively stay the same depending on the draft. The Chiefs are the Chiefs as of right now. But we'll get into all that when the season gets closer.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick. Are you like still holding to, and I know we'll do our mock drafts in a second, to someone like Shedeur Sanders, or you rather them wait till the second or third round and take like a Milroe type? Now that you have a quarterback, you can draft and stash. So, you know, and do you draft and stash number one?
Yeah, where
the
I'm at,
Geno gets in trouble, you're gonna hear those. You're gonna hear all those people put in the rookie.
Well, yeah, but I think Raiders fans are smart enough to know that's not going to happen. I think we ultimately draft a rookie quarterback. I don't think it's in the first round. So that kind of gives you a little sneak peek into where my mock draft sits. And, you know, spoiler alert, we have 5 people matching in our mock draft of where they're going. So stay tuned for that at the end of this episode. But MG,